All right, let's talk about the huge news that's shaking up the American motorcycle world. The powersports giant Polaris is actually parting ways with one of its crown jewels, the legendary Indian motorcycle brand. Now, this isn't just a simple sale, it's a major strategic split that could totally reshape the entire industry. So what's really going on here?
Right out of the gate, the new majority owner, a private equity firm called Carolwood, is setting the tone. I mean, you can see it in their statement right here. They're framing this as a next chapter, a brand new beginning for this iconic brand, not some kind of ending.
And yeah, that brings us to the big question, right? Why? Why on earth would a company like Polaris let go of a name with the kind of history and prestige that Indian Motorcycle has? It seems, a little crazy, but as we're about to see, it's all part of a very, very calculated strategy.
So what does this historic separation really look like? Well, it's not a complete clean break. Polaris is selling a majority stake, but they're actually keeping a small piece of the company. The real goal here is to create two more focused, more independent companies that can do their own thing.
So here are the two main players in this whole deal. On one side, you've got Polaris, this massive, publicly traded global leader in pretty much anything with an engine that goes off-road. And on the other side, the buyer, Carolwood LP, a private equity firm from LA that, well, has a very specific playbook for brands just like Indian.
At its core, this whole deal is about Polaris sharpening its focus. They're looking at everything they own and making a really tough call on where they should place their bets for the future to get the most growth.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. The Polaris CEO, Mike Speetzen, he said it himself. This is all about concentrating their money and their energy on the parts of their business that have the strongest growth potential. So what he's really saying is, they believe that potential lies somewhere other than motorcycles. So where is all that potential? Well, it's right here. Polaris is doubling down on what they do best, their off-road vehicles like the Ranger and RZR, their huge marine division with Bennington pontoons, their snowmobiles, and of course their military and commercial contracts. This is where they're going to be putting their investment.
Okay, so that covers the why for Polaris. But what about Indian? For them, this deal is the start of a completely new chapter, with fresh ownership and brand new leadership ready to take charge.
And this move makes a ton of sense when you look at Carolwood's whole business model. See, they aren't just random investors, they're specialists. Their entire strategy is to find these amazing, iconic brands that are kind of buried inside bigger corporations and help them break out as successful, standalone companies. Indian is a perfect fit for that.
And to lead this new, independent Indian, Carolwood didn't just pick some random person. Nope. They brought in an absolute industry heavyweight to grab the handlebars and steer the company forward.
Meet Mike Kennedy. So let's just break down his resume for a second. First off, he has over 3 decades in the business. He's been the CEO at major players like RumbleOn and the performance parts company Vance & Hines. But here's the real kicker. He spent 26 years in leadership at Harley-Davidson. That's right, the new CEO of Indian is a veteran from its oldest and biggest rival.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the deal, because the numbers here tell a really, really interesting story about why this whole thing is happening right now.
First up, how big was Indian for Polaris? Well, in the last 12 months, it brought in almost $500 million in revenue. That's not a small number. It's about 7% of Polaris's entire revenue.
But, and this is a big but, here's the other side of that coin. Even with all that revenue, Polaris expects its annual profitability to actually go up by $50 million after the sale. So what does that tell you? It suggests that even though Indian was bringing in cash, it just wasn't as profitable as Polaris's other divisions.
And this isn't just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. This deal directly impacts people. We're talking about approximately 900 employees who will be moving from Polaris to become part of the new, standalone Indian Motorcycle company.
And this slide really shows you that Indian is not starting from scratch, not even close. It's taking its key manufacturing plants, its European design center, the vast majority of its expert team, engineers, designers, you name it, and its entire global dealer network with it. This is basically a turnkey operation, ready to run full throttle from day one.
So, with the deal laid out and the key players in place, let's look down the road a little bit. What does the future actually hold for a more focused Polaris and a newly independent Indian Motorcycle?
First, just a quick look at the timeline. The announcement just happened. The plan is to have everything signed, sealed, and delivered in the first quarter of 2026, so we're in that transition period right now.
This table really sums it all up perfectly. On one side, you've got Polaris, which is going to pour money and resources into its core businesses, off-road, marine, and snow. And on the other side,
you've got Indian Motorcycle, which now gets to be a pure motorcycle company with leadership and owners that are 100% focused on winning in that market and that market alone.
And all of this leaves us with one final, absolutely fascinating question. For years, Indian has been the challenger, right? The underdog. Now it's an independent company, laser-focused on one thing, and it's being led by a man who knows its biggest rival from the inside out. So the question really is this the moment? Can Indian Motorcycle finally overtake Harley-Davidson? Only time is going to tell.